This is a place where people come to think about the past. It comes with a place to sleep, a place to take care of business, and a place to clean up. For 4 months in 2009, this is where Miles Marshall lived.
What happened was I broke into a barn and stole a bunch of stuff so I could pawn it to get money, basically. I was really into at that point in my life I was doing a lot of Oxycontin, just opiates in general, and I was pretty strung out on that stuff at that point in time, so it was whatever I could do to get money so I could get more. I was such a mess that I was just ready for it to be over. I was ready for the whole downward spiral to be over, so I was kind of throwing caution to the wind and just doing whatever I wanted to do, and it ended. Actually, I'm very thankful that I got caught and that day did happen. I wouldn't go, if I had to go back, I would do the same thing, honestly, to get me to the point I am right now. I was meant to fight. I feel like if it was 500 years ago, I'd be swinging an axe on a battlefield somewhere, it's who I'm meant to be, and it's what I'm meant to do. I always like to fight. That's why I've gotten into so many freaking street fights, for no reason, I always felt like I'm meant to do that. I started watching it way back in the UFC 1, and that was the first time I saw two dudes get in a cage and fight, and I'm like, oh, that's it, that's the stuff right there.
To step in the cage mentally is a huge step, and anybody who's stepped in there once, hats off to them, because it takes a lot to get in there and test yourself with another man and fight until one man is forced to say, I can't take any more, I quit, please stop.
Everybody wants to see somebody get punched in the face, and I like punching people. In a cage, it's definitely my spot. It's hard to compare being in jail to fighting in the cage. I could say polar opposites. I remember sitting in jail thinking about me missing my opportunities, and I would just pray every day that I'd get the chance to get out and do my dream, which was fighting again. I would shadow box a lot in the mirror, and people thought I was kind of crazy sometimes. Because when I'm in the cage, I'm free. I feel like I'm free when I'm practicing. Just even sitting in the gym talking. That's when I feel the most free.
I think he's getting a better idea of how his actions will affect his life. We've talked about, getting in trouble, making the wrong decisions versus making the right decisions and leading a good life. And for Miles, I think leading a good life, a big part of that is being a fighter. So, if he's making the wrong decisions, getting arrested or whatever it is, he's not gonna be able to fight.
I can't totally contribute it to drugs and alcohol, but I know that every time I went to jail, I was high, or high or drunk. And that's pretty solid fucking evidence right there that you got a problem. I thought I was good at taking drugs. I did. I figured I can wait until I practice to do drugs, and then that was a successful day, And I contribute that to why I lasted so long, being able to be a freaking full-blown drug addict and still fight in the cage. I wasn't eating food. I was eating drugs. I wasn't eating food. I dislocated my shoulder. I've broken my hands probably 15 times, and it's just lack of nutrition. If you go into a fight and you drink a cup of milk in 2 weeks, it's not a good combination. Man, doing drugs and fighting is just not a good idea. I was sure I was going to prison when I got these last charges. I was facing a long time in jail. It was 5 to 23 years in prison, and by the grace of God, I got 5 years of probation. I know it was because of treatment, and they wrote me a good letter, and they said that I was, they really felt that I was willing to change, and I am totally, but they saw that in me, and I think that's what kept me out of prison, was just being willing to make a better person for myself. And that's another reason I feel so blessed, because here I am.
I think fighting is a huge reward for him, and training is a reward, so he doesn't want to mess that up. It's a neat little story. I was thinking about Miles. I knew that he was in jail, and I didn't know when he was getting out. I was getting ready to dial his number. I had the phone in my hand. I was going to dial the number, and then I saw someone pull up. And lo and behold, it was Miles.
After being released from jail, Marshall spent 4.5 months in drug treatment. He was not allowed to fight until May 1st, 2010. It was his first time in the cage in 13 months.
Your winner, by unanimous decision, a new 185 middleweight champ, fighting out of Lincoln MMA, Miles Marshall!
The match went all 3 rounds, 4-minute rounds. As long as I've ever fought before was 12 minutes, and that sucked. Like, you think 12 minutes isn't long, but 12 minutes sucks, fighting in the cage for 12 minutes.
You got athletes everywhere, but I feel like mixed martial arts is definitely the most well-rounded. It's like everything, you know, like 100 different sports mixed up into one. You gotta do it all. It's like, if you're gonna be like a skater, all you gotta do is skate all day, right? You're playing baseball, you know, they practice catching, hitting you. Yeah. It's just totally different. I can't really compare it to anything. Wrestling is pretty close, but it's more. That was easy. It's gonna get hard here real quick.
Prior to getting in the cage, and especially like when you're in the cage, I try my hardest to let my mind go blank, because most of the time when you think about what you're going to do, it's not going to happen. You should have trained for everything that you're going to do. Like, you're not going to think anything in the cage that it's going to win you the fight right away. One of my coaches used to say, you have to practice something 1,000,000 times before you'll do it in a fight. It's pretty much just pure instinct. And that's how I feel like the best fighters do it.
From right here in Lincoln, Nebraska, it is your opponent, Tri-State Cage Fighting middleweight champ. He's 6 foot even, 185 pounds. He fights out of Lincoln MMA. Give it up for Miles Marshall!
The biggest thing in my life right now that has changed, I've found a God in my life, and I've always had a higher power and everything, but like, I felt like all the things I was doing in my life kept me at a distance from my higher power. Being clean and sober and working on myself has brought me a lot closer to my higher power, and that alone that's huge for me. I really feel that like I could do anything with the Lord at my side. Before, like, my higher power was drugs, you know? They say if you could tally up your thoughts for a week, you know, what do you think about the most in that week? That's your higher power. And I was thinking about drugs about 90% of the time. I'm not smoking pot every day, so I'm able to train a lot harder now, train a lot longer now. I feel stronger, you know? I'm stronger-willed, I have more courage, you know? I pray every day, but you know, before practice, before I meet, or a competition or something. I honestly don't feel like I'm in there by myself. I feel like I have more strength.
He went to counseling. He stayed away from the drugs and the alcohol and the the partying scene, and he did what he had to do. And he's come a long ways. And I do believe it's those changes are for real, and they'll probably be long lasting. He's determined. I mean, he really has a love for what he does, and he's very determined at succeeding. He's starting to become an all-around fighter. So, and that's what we're looking for in MMA, is guys to be all-around fighters, and he's definitely on that track. So I got a very good perception of him. He's a good guy. He's a good fighter. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's a good guy to train with. If he continues to have that drive and that willingness to learn more, I think he's going to make it to a big show eventually.
I referee throughout the Midwest, run Midwest Fighters Focus, which talks about all the fights, fighters, and events throughout the Midwest. Some of the dangers in mixed martial arts is sometimes guys feel like a rock star. They get into the chasing women, drinking, all that other kind of stuff, and allows that to distract them. I don't know how many fighters I've known over the years, they get to a certain level and it's almost self-destruct mode. I think that Miles has that streak in him. If that is tamed, whatever he wants to do in the sport, he's going to do in the sport.
I feel like all this was meant to happen, If all that happened and I ended up in prison, then maybe I wouldn't feel so much the same way. But, here I am, and I feel like now this is my opportunity to make myself what I'm supposed to be, what I was meant to be.
This is a place where Miles Marshall thinks about his future. It's a place to rise, a place to take care of business, and a place to clean up. People can judge a man by his past, where he's been, and why he was there. But if they look at the man for who he is, what he's been through, and what he stands for, they would see a man making the most of his second chance.
I feel like with my past, it's made me who I am today. And with all the bad things I have done in my life, I'm grateful. And it's just silly to say, and it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. And I feel like it won't to a lot of people, but I know it took all that to be where I am today. All my past, all the good things, the bad things, and I'm really grateful for all that. I love life today, so it's all good.